Hello everyone! Happy weekend! So, it's been a while since the last time I've uploaded a video tutorial for painting watercolor and acrylic. But hopefully this time, I'll be able to share another landscape watercolor painting that I was able to work on last weekend. I was not able to upload much for the couple of days because I've been busy with the corporate job and I have some errands to do and I've been sick for a couple of days now. So that explains my voice right now. So as you can see on the video, I'm sketching cherry blossoms. When I worked on this one, I initially wanted to paint a floral bouquet. So that's cherry blossoms, and the background should be a mix of violet, blue, and pink. However, along the way, I realized that I've made a mistake on this one and I was not liking the result of the background for my cherry blossom. So I decided impromptu to change the subject. So instead of floral bouquet painting, I've decided to work on a sunset landscape. So that's what I'm going to teach you now for this tutorial. And for the materials that we'll be using or you'll be needing, I'll just include it on the description box below. So first thing that we're gonna do is get a brush. This time I used a blush on brush. I'm not using this one, so I'm using this when I paint landscapes because it holds a lot of water than other of my brushes. So dab your brush on a clean water and then wet the entire paper. So you'll just have to wet the paper back and forth. You don't need to smudge it. And then get your watercolor brush and then dab it on a violet color and then spread it along the canvas. And then after that, get a red paint and spread it across the canvas as well, right across the violets. Okay. So there. So when you put the paint, you'll just have to gently brush it on top of the wet paper. You don't really need to smudge it all over. Okay. So this violet and red will be our skies, and I'm now putting the ultramarine blue at the bottom of the paper because this will serve as our ocean later. Okay, so I'm just spreading colors. There's no, it's totally random. I'm just mixing the colors, but not entirely mixing it because it will turn out to be gray if you mix all the colors, the blue, the violet, and the red. So it's just straight lines back and forth. And I'm adding more ultramarine blue at the bottom of the paper for our ocean. And I'm adding violet as well. This is the second layer of the violet. So when painting watercolor and landscape watercolor, I mean, just be careful on how much water you put on the paper because if you put too much water on, case would be your paper will wrinkle and then you'll get to the water will be stuck in between the wrinkled papers. So you have to be really careful in doing this. So don't put too much water in it. So as long as your paper is wet, the colors will just go in and blend. So this time, we'll just need to ensure that every colors has blended perfectly. So remember, you can definitely do this wet on wet technique as long as the paper is still wet with water. So if the paper is dry already, this technique won't work, and if you brush paints on it, you'll have harsh and hard lines. So I'm just adding a lot layers of colors, but I think I'm gonna stop now because my paper has begun to dry already, and I don't want to have harsh and hard lines in between the colors. So I'm gonna add and wet this ocean or blue, ultramarine blue parts because I want it to be darker. So I'll just get a lot of water and then I'll mix the blue, the tallow blue, and the ultramarine blue. So it's really fun using the wet on wet technique. I find it really fun and relaxing. So I'll just add some darker blue in here. I'm using ultramarine. So again, so long as your paper is wet, then there's no problem or issue in adding layers. But as you can see here, I think the part of this paper is beginning to dry, so I think I will probably stop adding layers of blue, and let's see, I'll work on that later. And it's really hard recording and talking about this tutorial. I'm so sorry because my voice is, I'm currently sick, so I have this deep voice. I hope you can forgive me for this crappy voice. So for the next step, I just get a ruler and I'm gonna draw a straight line in between the blue and the mix of violet and pink. So that is where we will be painting the mountains. So you can also use as an alternative a washi tape and tape it across the artwork, but I prefer using the ruler and drawing a straight line or using a marker, a watercolored pencil, because I don't want to risk my background to be ripped when I remove the washi tapes, because I've had instances in the past where I used washi tape on a painted background, and then when I removed the tape, the paper came off as well. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to risk this background, so I'm just painting a straight line using a watercolored pencil from Faber-Castell and a ruler. So while I'm cleaning my brush, what we're gonna do next is we'll have a darker shade of violet, and we're gonna paint the farthest mountain. So we're gonna do layers of 2 sets of mountains. So the background will be lighter, and then after painting that, we'll have a darker shade of violet for the mountain that's nearer to our to the audience. So for the mountains, I'm just scribbling triangles and round shapes and cone-like shapes. So I'm just doing this very lightly. So it doesn't have to be perfect, because as mentioned earlier, this is just gonna be the mountain over at the background at the back of another mountain. So we don't want it to be perfect, because we will be painting another set of mountains on top of it. So feel free to add another layer of violet on this mountain, but remember that it doesn't have to be too dark, because we will be painting another set of mountains in front of this mountain, and that should be the darkest shade. So we'll just wait for this mountain to dry, and once we're done with it, we will start painting with the darkest or the darker mountain. So while waiting for the first mountain to dry, I already sketched a sailing boat, and then what I'm doing now is I'm painting it black, because I want it to be like a silhouette of a boat. So I am painting it black, a watercolor. Okay. But I think I am not really liking it. It's too soft for a silhouette for me. But we'll see if I'll add another layer of black, and let's see what will happen. But I'm already thinking, if this will not work out, then I'll be using a black acrylic paint for the silhouette. Oh, there's a mosquito flying. Sorry. So there. Let's just wait for it to dry. So I've tried adding layers of watercolor, black watercolor, but it turned out that I'm not really liking it, and I'm not happy with how black it is. So what I'll do is I'll just paint it with a black acrylic paint. Okay, so now I'm using the black acrylic paints, and I definitely like it, how black it is, and it really satisfied my my imagination of having the silhouette as black as this. So I'm just painting it across the outline of the earlier watercolor version of the boat, and I'm just applying it thoroughly. Okay. And this time I'll be using a calligraphy pen from Artline for the twigs and the ropes there. And since we've already painted the silhouette of the boat, and I think the initial mountain is dry already, then we're gonna be painting the darker shade of the mountains on top of this one. So I'm just mixing violet and added some black in it. So again, I'm just doodling triangles and lines, random lines. But when you do this, you have to ensure also that you don't cover the entire mountains that we've painted earlier. So we'll be able to see or portray that there's mountains at the back of this mountains in front. So this creates an impression that there's depth in the painting. So darker violets, I just added black watercolor. So to work with the ocean, I'm just wetting again the paper to reactivate the paint. And I'm just adding lighter shades of violet because I want to show reflection of the mountains on the water. So I'm painting violets. And now that I've accomplished that, I will be using again my calligraphy pen from Artline, and I'll just doodle some birds flying in our pinkish and violetish skies. Okay, so smaller birds means they're the farthest. Okay, and I'm re-wetting it again, and I'll add blues, ultramarine blue. Okay, because I want to portray that this is still an ocean. So that's basically the end of our sunset landscape tutorial. So I hope you liked it, and if you liked it, please leave a comment and follow me on my Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!